here and in the corner. I would ask everybody if you could just take a second and put your phones on vibrate or silent, if you'd be so kind. Restrooms are down the stairs. There's one on the level immediately here, and then there's another couple of restrooms in the level below that. I'll give you some more logistics when we do refreshments, because we do want you to kind of walk around a little bit and see the facility. And so I'll give you some more information once we get to that part. I want to start off by thanking our primary sponsors for the event, the Konar Foundation and the Jewish Federation, specifically the Ames Amalek Charitable Trust Fund and Louise M. and Justin Vigner Advance Fund. I'll particularly thank Justin Vigner, who's been a great advocate for Baden Street and has done some wonderful things for us. I'd also like to thank our supporting sponsors. And if you're here, please feel free to stand up. Alan Cannell, the Nori Family Foundation, Bond, Shenick and King, thanks, Jeff. Wegmans, thank you, Tyrese. And our media sponsor, WXXI, and particularly Adam Chodak, who did a great job with his show, his Connection show, and had a great show and was able to feature myself and Mitch and Dr. Brown and Monica Skirker to talk about Baden Street and its history. I'd also like to just take a second to thank Dr. Michael Brown, who you'll hear from tonight, and Autumn Haig, who's in the back there. They really understand the whole settlement house movement and have not just the history of the settlement house movement, but they really took the time to look at Baden Street in the present and how that relates to Baden Street's past. And I think you'll hear a lot about that tonight. There are a number of people who made this event possible, and I'm going to go through a list. And please, if I leave anybody off the list, please do not take offense. It's just my feeble memory that leaves you out. But first, Rabbi Stein, Monica Skirker, and the Temple Brit Kodesh team, thank you so much for your help. Baden Street events team, Monica and her team, Monica, John Alhart, who's here, Lisa, and Emma, who has left Baden Street but really did some good foundational work for us for the event. I'd like to thank the Baden Street Board, specifically Jeff Clark, John Alhart, Tyrese Bryan, and Kimberly Giblin for their work in helping us here. The Baden Street technical team of Lee Harris, Davis Craig, and Cam Pagano. And we're live streaming this event, so not only will people see it live, but you'll be able to get this event on our website. I'd like to give a special thanks to our sound engineer tonight, Hector Diaz. Hector is our former head of our chemical dependency clinic. Hector left for a brighter path, or just for some career development reasons. But I think, by the end of the night, you'll understand why Hector is here acting as our sound engineer, because Baden is in his blood. And so you can take the person out of Baden, but you can't take the Baden out of the person. And that's why Hector's here tonight helping us out. I'd like to thank Teddy Thomas, and John Johnson is here as well, who painted this entire gym. But Teddy has been dedicated to getting this facility back to where it should be, to make it worthy of what it was when our founders built this gym. There's been a while where Baden Street has kind of fallen out of disrepair, and Teddy has taken it on as his personal mission to get this facility back to where it needs to be. And then finally, I'd like to thank Mitch Gruber. I think Mitch is well known to both populations, both the Brit Kodesh population and Baden Street settlement. I took this job about a year or so ago, and one of the first people I met was Mitch. It was a phone call, and then he graciously allowed me to tour FoodLink, and FoodLink has been a great partner at Baden Street. Well, one of the things Mitch mentioned to me as I toured the great FoodLink facility, he said, we got to have an event. We got to have an event that brings the Jewish community and Baden Street together, because that's where Baden Street started. And true to his word, he never gave up in that year. Mitch has brought us together, and he's a large reason, and he's the driving force behind this event. So a great deal of thanks to Mitch. If you'll just allow me a few words to talk about Baden Street and the significance this event has for me. I actually didn't introduce myself, Michael Marsh, Executive Director. But I took this role over a little more than a year or so ago. And it's been the pleasure of a lifetime to work with a fantastic and dedicated team at Baden Street. Great people, great mission, and most importantly, a great community. It's been a whirlwind, and I think we have accomplished a great deal in this 120th year, and we have a great deal more to go. But it's been a fantastic time. But speaking with Dr. Brown and Ms. Haig has given me kind of a slight shift in perspective on Baden. Because when you're the executive director of a place like Baden, it's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day. Pipes bursting, facilities painted, all the things that, in a place like this with a mission like we have, you have to tend to day-to-day. But one thing that I understood after talking to Dr. Brown and Ms. Haig was that Baden Street is a place that transcends time, place, and any individual. Baden Street is a feeling and a desire to help people in a community adapt to the community that surrounds them. We live in a wonderful world, but sometimes that world can be tough and unforgiving. And the spirit in a place like Baden helps people transition in that world, helps to put them in a better place, in a place of self-sufficiency. And it's that feeling, it's that sense of community that really makes Baden a truly special place. And it's that feeling that allows Baden to serve the Jewish community in 1901 and the Latinx community and the African American community in 2021. So when you're here and you hear about the history of Baden Street, understand that it's more than these buildings, it's more than this place. It's a feeling and it's a sense of community that we all have. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. May God bless you all for coming, and may God continue to bless Baden Street. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Mitch Gruber.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Michael Marsh and the whole Baden Street team for hosting us today. My name is Mitch Gruber. I'm a city council member. As Michael said, I'm the chief partnerships officer at FoodLink, so I've been a longtime friend of Baden Street. But for right now, I actually want to introduce myself to you all as a historian. I'm not a very good historian, which is why we have the professional coming up after me to do a much better talk. But Michael Brown and I went through the same kind of long, vigorous training. I don't know how long it took you. It took me 8 years to finish my doctorate at the U of R. And what drove me the whole time is my love of stories. I mean, history is about stories. And I particularly love local history. I love being able to stand here at Baden Street right now in 2021 and be able to draw a clear path from when my great-grandparents emigrated to the United States and ultimately created the pathway for me to be where I am today. It's an incredible thing to be able to draw that line directly. And we all have stories, right? Every one of us individually has stories. We have stories as families. We have stories as communities. And what I think is so incredible about where we stand today is that so many people's stories in this community came through Baden Street. It is just an incredible institution that has done so much for this community. It's a place that was founded by two women from Temple B'rith Kodesh 120 years ago. It served the Jewish community and the adjacent communities, and it has transformed. I'm going to steal one note from Michael, which is that when people like Michael and I sit in graduate school all day and they talk about settlement houses, everyone talks about a place called Hull House in Chicago. And Hull House was founded in the late 19th century by a woman named Jane Addams, and Hull House is now a museum. Meanwhile, Baden Street, which was founded not that many years after, is still here touching people's lives on a daily basis still, consecutively, 120 years. It's a remarkable thing. So I'm just so delighted that so many people showed up today. I'm delighted because I know this is the first of many events, because what I want to make sure happens is that we collectively, as a community, wrap our arms around Baden Street and create another 120 years of stories to be told and families and individuals' lives to be touched. So I'm, again, very grateful. I want to echo Michael's thank you to all the sponsors. This is an incredible thing that came together very quickly. And I'm really eager to have you all see the talent we have today. So I'm just going to run through the itinerary for 1 second so you all know. Michael Brown is going to, Dr. Professor Michael Brown will be giving a talk in just a moment. And after that, we'll offer tours of the facility to people. Baden Street staff will lead that process. And after that, we'll come back to, and there's refreshments. And after that, we'll come back together and we'll be treated to a really wonderful concert, compliments of Temple B'rith Kodesh by Dan Nichols. I'm really excited about that. So stick with us, and we're going to start it out with Dr. Michael Brown.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. It's wonderful to see you. It's wonderful to see so many folks here in the gym. Shout out to you, Mr. Johnson, for the work you did painting the gym. It looks wonderful. Shout out to all the folks out there in Streamland. Hello, folks in Streamland. Good evening to you. Happy belated Thanksgiving. Happy Hanukkah. And happy 120th anniversary Baden Street settlement. Wow. Baden Street is a short street with a long history. Baden Street is just one street, but all the roads of Rochester history converge here. This settlement has touched the lives and been given life by generations of Rochester families. And for the opportunity to tell just a little bit of its story tonight, I am so tremendously grateful. I'm grateful to all those who made the event happen. Michael Marsh, Autumn Haig, who put together the slides that were running when we all came in. Mitch Gruber, Rabbi Stein, the B'rith Kodesh family, the Baden Street family. There are many scholars on whose work I've relied. And there are also many elders and history keepers from the B'rith Kodesh community and the Baden Street community. And I know that there is far more to learn from you than one evening's talk could ever hold. I was talking to Mr. Johnson on the way in about when he used to play here in the gym. I was talking to Sheila Weinbach about the 25-cent dancing lessons that she took here, and her parents were told not to waste that money on Sheila's dancing ability. The histories of B'rith Kodesh and Baden Street are entwined, and together, they are Rochester's history for 120 years and counting. Ms. Monica Hanks. Hi, Monica. Monica keeps an archive room at the other building, and in that wonderful archive room, I saw this photograph. You see all those young faces looking out at you? You see behind them 3 big doors labeled past, present, and future. This evening, we open a door to Baden Street's past, embrace and give a nice Hanukkah hug to its present, and look ahead to its future. So let's open door number 1, the past, and see what's behind it. Let's go back to the beginnings of Baden Street, which means going back to Temple B'rith Kodesh in the late 1800s, and back to a Rochester humming with industry and immigration. After the Civil War, the booming industrial economy of the United States demands a larger and larger and larger workforce. At the same time, particularly in Eastern and Southern Europe, there's economic hardship, there's political oppression, and in the Russian Empire, the so-called Pale of Settlement, there is terrible violence against Jewish people, the pogroms. These factors lead many people to consider doing something daring and frightening, leaving the land of their birth to go someplace they have never been. Those push factors in the homelands combine with the pull factor of jobs in cities like Rochester to spark large-scale immigration in the late 19th century from Eastern and Southern Europe to the Atlantic coast of the United States. And the America to which these immigrants arrives is becoming prosperous, but not welcoming. It is dominated by white Protestant Christians, some of whom are hostile to newcomers who do not share their religions or their cultures. But that's not everyone. Other people respond to immigrants with sympathy and fellowship and deeds. Among them is Jane Addams of Chicago, the founder of Hull House, which Mitch mentioned, and it bears repeating, is now a museum, and we're in an active gymnasium in an active settlement house that is 120 years old, unbroken. Now, Addams is at the forefront of that movement with Lillian D. Wald. She's got her hand on Lillian D. Wald's shoulder. Lillian D. Wald founded the Nurses Settlement in Manhattan, sometimes called the House on Henry Street. Lillian D. Wald is from Rochester. Her family, her father, sold optical goods, lived on East Avenue, very close to the Liberty Pole. Her family were members of Brith Kodesh. So the Scottie Pippen to the Michael Jordan of Jane Addams, the Scottie Pippen is from Rochester, and she's connected to Brith Kodesh. In the early days, the residents of the settlement houses, there was an apartment, a residence above the activity spaces. The residents were the social workers themselves. So this weird term settlement refers to these settlers who were middle class, often college-educated women that went to live in working class, often immigrant districts. The settlement workers believed that physical proximity, something that is not as possible today. They believed that physical proximity could bridge social and cultural distance, and that this bridging, this nearness, it could be transformative for neighborhood people and for the settlement residents, for the social workers themselves. In the words of a more recent friend of humanity, the sincere question of the settlement movement was, "Won't you be my neighbor?" This settlement ethic was an unbelievably striking alternative to the social Darwinism that prevailed as the sort of economic philosophy of the day. It held that people were born either fit or unfit for the fierce competition of capitalism. Yale sociology professor William Graham Sumner, kind of an Ebenezer Scrooge-type character, put it this way: the friends of humanity start out with certain benevolent feelings toward the poor, the weak, the laborers, and others of whom they make pets. They turn to other classes and appeal to sympathy and generosity, and for Sumner, that was a problem. A problem. Such efforts, he scowled, would only favor the survival of the unfittest. That's not what the settlement movement was about. the settlement movement emphatically rejects that kind of thinking. Instead, it lifts up the worth of each person, and it points to the unhealthy and oppressive conditions in which working families are forced to live as the real problem, rather than any sort of inherent defect in people themselves. In order to improve people's lives, the settlement aimed to improve the conditions around people, conditions for both body and soul. And I think that, Sheila, your dancing lessons probably were good for both body and soul. This meant that the settlements emphasized nutritious food, playgrounds, fresh air, clean pasteurized milk, and literature, music, art, and in time, medical care, education, and recreation. And settlements didn't just focus on the services they could offer on-site. They looked to improve things out in the neighborhood. The work that many who lived in the Baden Street neighborhood did was part of Rochester's burgeoning clothing industry. Are there any folks here this evening who have ancestors who are connected to the clothing industry in Rochester? I've seen about a half dozen hands. That's because the footprint of the clothing industry was massive. It's sort of overshadowed by Bausch & Lomb and Kodak, but unjustly so. Before 1910, Rochester was among the top 3 centers of clothing production in the country. We've still got Hickey Freeman today. There were 10,000 workers and 326 clothiers by 1916. The emphasis was on fine menswear. And clothiers fit the Chamber of Commerce slogan that Rochester made means quality. As early as the 1840s and 50s, Jewish immigrants from German lands were laying the groundwork for large-scale clothing production in Rochester. By the 1880s, Rochester clothiers were starting to build factories, not just home production, where you did talk about working from home, where the whole family from sunup to sundown is working to finish garments in the home. By the 1880s, that's being supplemented by the build-out of factories like the Adler Rochester shops. These factories are backed by a network stretching up Joseph Avenue all around Baden Street of those small residential shops, sometimes called sweatshops. The clothing industry became a major employer of Rochester's newest Jewish immigrants. And it's at that moment that the story of Baden Street's beginnings becomes a story really of Jewish women's leadership in Rochester. The families who laid the foundations of the clothing industry had also, in 1848, laid the foundations of Brit Kodesh. That same year, 1848, there was a women's rights convention in Seneca Falls and here in Rochester. And it fits really well that Brit Kodesh and the women's rights movement have the same birth year. Because the leading figure in the women's rights movement, Susan B. Anthony, was very close to the Landsbergs, the rabbi family at Brit Kodesh. Led by Miriam Landsberg, the women of Brit Kodesh launched in 1892 their sisterhood. Their motto was to, quote, lend a helping hand wherever anyone may be in need of material or spiritual assistance. The sisterhood was part of the larger world of Rochester women. Miriam Landsberg's here with a number of elite Protestant women and part of a gathering called the Wednesday Club. And so the Brit Kodesh sisterhood is linked to this larger activist network of Rochester women pushing for social change. But what about the women who were served by Baden Street? Who were they? What were their lives like? Well, often they worked in the clothing factories that the Brit Kodesh families operated. When in 1901, two members of the Brit Kodesh sisterhood, Fanny Adler Garson and Therese Katz, organized the settlement, they drew upon the power of those women's networks to build an institution that in its earliest years would mainly serve women and children. Some of the Brit Kodesh families had been in Rochester for decades, and they had achieved a certain prominence here. The clothing workers had just arrived in the United States in many cases, let alone Rochester. They did not speak English typically at home, or perhaps very much at all. And Brit Kodesh practiced a Reform Judaism that was distant from some of the Jewish lives of the immigrants. And so there are all these differences between the sisterhood of Brit Kodesh and the women around whom this settlement movement in Rochester is taking shape in this neighborhood right here. But rising from Jane Addams' Hull House in Chicago and spreading throughout the nation is this settlement ideal of neighborly assistance, acquaintance, and mutual respect. And these, they believe, will replace barriers with bridges. Bridges between immigrants and established Rochesterians, between the working poor and the well-to-do. Settlement houses were not the only option. They were not even the only approach to addressing class differences in Rochester among Jewish women. For some working-class Jewish women, radical social change appeared the only adequate response to economic inequality. Emma Goldman arrived in Rochester from Russia in 1886 when she was 17, and she lived at 120 Kelly Street, which is a block east of where we are this evening. Her first job, the Garson Meyer clothing factory operated by Leopold Garson, who had also been a president of Brit Kodesh. Goldman described working 10.5 hours a day, 6 days a week, for a weekly paycheck of $2.50. I was in America, she wrote, in the Flower City, in a model factory, I was told. Yet the work here was harder and the days seemed endless. The constant surveillance of the foreman weighed like a stone on my heart. In response to experiences like those Goldman described, workers in this neighborhood, women workers in this neighborhood, mainly Jewish and Italian women, organized for higher wages, better working conditions, and they wanted to have labor unions. There was a massive garment workers' strike here in 1913, and it took a deadly turn when a teenage garment worker named Ida Bremen, recently immigrated from Russia, was killed after a sweatshop operator fired a shotgun into the crowd of striking workers. And so when the Brit Kodesh Sisterhood leased and then bought the property at 152 Baden Street for this settlement, their effort was literally and sort of emotionally at the heart of the economic and social tensions that were roiling Rochester. That red X is where Ida Bremen is shot on Clifford Avenue. That bottom-most blue X, the Garson Meyer factory where Emma Goldman worked. That lower blue X there is the location of Brit Kodesh on Gibbs and Grove Street at the time. That white X in the middle is Baden Street Settlement, the blue X next to it, where Emma Goldman lived. So much is happening and so much intense stuff is happening, all clustered right here. The house at 152 Baden was the first permanent settlement in Rochester and the oldest continuously operating one in town. And from the very beginning, it started adapting to the needs of the neighbors. It started off as, I think Michael Marsh will use the term, an extended living room, an extension of the home. Settlement workers soon discovered that the neighborhood would show them what it needed. And the neighborhood needed the internet of its age. The neighborhood needed a telephone. And so Baden Street had the neighborhood telephone, which the head resident, the head social worker, Sarah Van Stort, said was a neighborhood blessing indispensable in times of sickness. It's strange how things change, but not entirely, because that telehealth tradition at Baden Street continues today during the pandemic. Lee, that's downstairs from us right now, right? So we're above the telehealth room, a century-long tradition here at Baden Street. Last year, you may have seen the conversion of the Rochester Convention Center into kind of an overflow hospital in the early days of the pandemic. When the influenza pandemic of 1918-19 reached Rochester, Baden Street made its assembly hall into an emergency hospital. Settlement houses are in this middle ground between the family on one side and the government and public services on the other. And as families face different challenges and intensifying challenges, and as public services, depending on politics, either expand or contract, that middle ground has to widen and narrow with the needs of the families on one side and what the government will do on the other. And so the settlement isn't a fixed thing, it's not a finished thing, it's a thing in motion. This is long before FDR's New Deal, LBJ's Great Society, or Joe Biden's Build Back Better. And settlements actually become a lab for what public services can look like. Programs and services pioneered at Baden Street are later picked up by government agencies, public schools, public libraries. And this includes everything from bathing and shower facilities in a neighborhood that did not have hot running water, to public health measures like well baby checkups and preventative medicine. The settlement house shows society how these things can be done. It shows society that these things need to be done. But sometimes adapting to neighborhood needs meant that instead of providing its own services, the settlement has to push for better public services. Sometimes it goes even further than that. And sometimes it means asking more sweeping questions about changes to address the underlying conditions of poverty. Baden Street started a bulletin that became this magazine, The Common Good of Civic and Social Rochester. And it featured some pretty strong words about social change, including these words from 1914. If the folks nearest the ground can be kept contented with bearing the rest of mankind on their backs, you in Rochester may go on mildly progressing quite a while. But I hope they will buck, muss things up, and reorganize society. That's Rabbi Wolf of Brit Kodesh, who in a sermon declared, "The time has come for the reconstruction of society to ensure to every man, woman, and child the things that make life different from mere existence. This magazine publishes a poem that was famous at the time. It called not just for bread, but also for roses, not just for the elements of living, but for a quality of life worthy of human beings. And so workers on the picket line, religious leaders at Brit Kodesh, and settlement workers are all asking the question, how can we make life better for people? In 1926, Gertrude Jerdone, the head resident at Baden Street, simply asked, what's our outlook here? Settlement houses have been considered temporary. When is their mission accomplished? In the 20s, people started to think, maybe never, or certainly not yet. And the settlement movement began in the context of immigration. It was involved in the so-called Americanization of newcomers. But in 1924, there was new federal immigration legislation that really closed the door to immigrants. It was based on eugenicist thinking that Eastern and Southern Europeans are genetically less than Northern Western Europeans. Somebody who spoke out against it was Congressman Meyer Jacobstein, raised in a clothing worker's family on Nash Street, just a few blocks from here. Congressman Jacobstein from the neighborhood speaks out against the law. He says nothing can be more dangerous than a law or theory which puts one race above another, which stamps one group of people as superior and another as inferior. So what does a settlement house founded to welcome and support immigrants do when the gate of immigration is slammed shut? Well, in those years, new families are moving to Baden Street, including Black, Italian, and after World War II, Puerto Rican families. Like those who had come to the area before them, Black arrivals sought opportunity in Rochester, and they left oppressive conditions behind, the conditions of the Jim Crow South. Jewish families had been relocating in these years beyond Baden Street to other city neighborhoods and eventually to Rochester's suburbs. The temple itself moved from Gibbs Street to Elmwood Avenue. These are part of larger changes that were reshaping Rochester and Monroe County over the course of the 20th century. Black Rochesterians faced persistent barriers to that kind of mobility, barriers to their economic aspirations. Built on a backdrop of redlining or restrictive covenants, a host of racist measures in mortgage banking and realty, residential segregation in Rochester barred Black Rochesterians' pathways. Baden Street was one of the few places that Black families could access housing, and by the time many of them arrived, houses that settlement workers from 1901 were characterizing as dilapidated were more dilapidated still. The neighborhood was changing around the settlement, and as the settlement did time and again, it had to change with the neighborhood. Housing became a key issue. The Hanover houses, affordable public housing across Vienna Street from where we are right now, opened to families in 1952 and was only the leading edge of a profound transformation of the area. Look at that spot, that oddly shaped trapezoid where there are no buildings in the middle of the photograph. Ultimately, the entire neighborhood, from the railroad tracks north to Upper Falls, from Hudson Avenue east to St. Paul, would be rebuilt. Even the original settlement house at 152 was torn down. 2 years later, the settlement director said, "We're in a neighborhood in limbo." For Black and Puerto Rican residents of the neighborhood, the physical transformation all that building did not address some of the underlying issues of discrimination in employment and education and policing. On the left is Dr. William J. Knox, a chemist at Eastman Kodak who had worked on the Manhattan Project in World War II, got involved with Baden Street in the 50s, and by the 60s was president of the board. On the right is Manuel D. Goldman, who was president of Temple Brith Kodesh. There's a great interview where he says, if you talk a lot at meetings and then get up to go to the bathroom, you come back and you're told that you're now the president. So Manuel D. Goldman, maybe by virtue of that process, is the president of the temple. Both of them are on the Monroe County Housing Authority, and both of them resigned from it when the Housing Authority declined to support the creation of low and moderate income housing throughout the county rather than concentrated in the city. As Rabbi Philip Bernstein of Brith Kodesh put it in a letter to the newspaper, the circumstances which compelled those men to resign raised some serious questions. Bernstein had written that brotherhood has no meaning unless Black people can choose to live wherever they like in the Rochester area. Now, 50 years earlier, the sisterhood founded Brith Kodesh amid the progressive movement of the time. In the 1960s, Baden Street became part of another movement, that for civil rights. In 1963, maybe in this room, maybe in the room we're right now in, there was a mass meeting to protest discriminatory and sometimes brutal policing. 600 attendees heard Malcolm X and others speak about the need for change. Dr. Walter Cooper of the NAACP told the meeting that Rochester may well be at a crossroads in race relations. And he was right, because the next year, 1964, all the compounding moral and material injuries of discrimination in housing, schooling, employment, and policing resulted in an uprising of Black residents that shook Rochester and that started near here. Baden Street surveyed its neighborhood afterwards, and many in the neighborhood felt that settlement leaders should have something in common, they said, with the people of the neighborhood. And so in 1969, after working at IBM, Xerox, and the Urban League, William Hall became Baden Street's first Black director. William Hall was a kid who did the migration path, coming north from Florida following the harvest, ending up doing harvest work here around Rochester, and ultimately moving to the neighborhood and growing up in public housing near the settlement, where he played basketball. In these same years, the settlement continues to expand its services. Its old health center becomes the Anthony L. Jordan Health Center, just across Holland Street today. By the 70s, Baden Street had been such an impactful place in Rochester for so long that generations of children who grew up in the settlement, with the settlement, people like William Hall, people like some of the folks that are here this evening, they had become adults, community contributors, creators, leaders. Lena Gant died of cancer in 1982 when she was just 64, after years in service to the neighborhood and her neighbors. In recognizing her advocacy, senior housing, the Lena Gant Estates that replaced the Hanover houses, it bears her name. Her son, David Gant, grew up around the settlement, which he credited for keeping him focused when he was a kid. As a county legislator and then a state assemblyman, he followed in his mom's footsteps as a strong voice for Northeast Rochester. And he followed in Mario Cuomo's footsteps in the Jumpin' Jack Shootout basketball tournament of 1990. To quote my friend Lee, those are some shorts. I guess Mario won. I don't think Assemblymember Gant ever lived that down. In the first year of its life, the settlement served 300 children on a $1,500 budget. Today, it serves 10,000 families a year with a budget larger, hopefully, than 1,500, though certainly not large enough, I would wager, to meet all the needs. More meaningful a measure of the settlement's impact than any one year's statistics are the people, the generations who for more than a century have been nourished by the settlement, body and mind. This is Pamela Jackson Yelder, raised in the Hanover houses. If it hadn't been for Baden Street, she said, none of us would have ever thought of going to college. She went, and then she came back here and worked as the activities director. One of the cool guys there on the left is Charles Buddy Granston. He arrived in Rochester in 1947 as a 9-year-old. God bless the Baden Street settlement, he said. I learned more there than I really believe I could have learned in high school and a good part of college. Broadway plays, archery, fencing, choir, cooking classes, and all that. I'm a product of the settlement houses, Buddy said, and I'm glad that I was. And Baden Street was where it was at. That's Abe Hollander, later in life and as a boy. He was born in Rochester in 1914 to Jewish immigrant parents. He recalled, my mother went to Baden Street Settlement for sewing classes. It wasn't to sew for recreation. They actually sewed clothing for our family. Mrs. Jerdone, the head resident, was revered and well thought of and involved in activities. And Abe said, it was in a respectful way, in a non-demeaning way. You didn't feel that you were being treated as someone with something wrong. We didn't feel they were doing things for us. We just felt they were a friend. A few weeks ago, Michael Marsh told the Rochester Business Journal, we want to be here for people, not just because you have a dire need or that your life is in distress, but that you're here to enjoy yourself. Compare Michael's words to these words from the Settlement Bulletin of 1906. The Boys Club might be described as an institution for the propagation of the doctrine of fun. The boys forget for 1 hour and a half, 90 all too short minutes, that there's anything else in the world but good fun and good fellowship. On this night of Hanukkah, we celebrate the Festival of Light. And fittingly, we celebrate 120 years of the Baden Street Settlement, a light for the people of Northeast Rochester. Thank you very much.
That was fantastic. I just learning about the history of Baden and how this consistent themes run through it is always fascinating for me, and hopefully all of you enjoyed it. We're going to take about a 15-minute break now, and then we're going to get set up for a concert. We have some refreshments. If you proceed down the stairs to your left, there's a room with some refreshments, some sinful donuts and some other stuff there that hopefully you'll all enjoy. And then we'll bring you back in about 15 minutes or so. I would ask, as you proceed through the room and get your refreshments, feel free to we're not going to conduct formal tours, but feel free in the areas outside of the rooms to eat and to enjoy some fellowship. And once you finish eating, feel free to also look in some of the rooms downstairs, some of the facilities that we have, our gaming center and our telehealth center. And then we'll come back in about 15 to 20 minutes or so to enjoy Dan Nichols. And Dan, thank you so much for being here, and we can't wait to hear you. So with that, let's take a break, and we'll come back in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thanks. I know. Rabbi Stein just said it's hard to compete with donuts, don't I know? Okay, Rabbi Stein.
Good evening, everyone. I am so honored to be with you tonight to celebrate and to renew and deepen this partnership we have between Temple B'rith Kodesh and Baden Street Settlement. We are here, as everyone knows, during the holiday of Hanukkah, and we're going to take a moment for the ritual of the lighting of the Hanukkah candles, something that for some of you, you've been doing for many years, and I'm guessing that there are a few in the room for whom they've never seen this ritual before. Hanukkah is an 8-day holiday. On the first day of the holiday, we light 1 candle, 2 on the second day, 3 on the third day, and so on till the last night, which will be tomorrow night when we light all 8 lights on the menorah. It's a lesson and a challenge to us that in the dark time of year, we find ways to create light and all that's associated with it, to create light and hope and possibility and renewal. In the darkest, coldest, most challenging times, we can use what is in our heart, we can use what is in our soul to create goodness and health and strength in this world. That's the spirit of Hanukkah. And we're going to take a moment for the lighting of the Hanukkah candles. I'm going to ask my colleagues from Temple to come forward and join me. I'm going to ask, let's see, I think the All Heart children are here, and I'm going to invite Aaron Gurel to come forward and Maya Tulik to come forward and join us for the Hanukkah lighting. We're going to say 2 blessings. The first one says, "Blessed is God who tells us to light the Hanukkah candles." Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Hanukkah. The second blessing says, "Thank you, God, for the miracles you performed for us at this season many years ago." Baruch Happy Hanukkah once again, everyone. Thank you to the boys and girls who helped light the candles tonight. Let's give them a little bit of appreciation. So we are celebrating 120 years of Baden Street, and there's a Jewish tradition when it comes to someone's birthday. We say in Hebrew, Ad mea ve'esrim. Now that's for a person who can only live for so long, and it literally means, may you live until 120. So in that sense, we are at a very special milestone for Baden Street, which still has more essential work to do. We've made it to 120, that special number of years, that milestone. And now we say again, Ad mea ve'esrim, may we continue on for another 120 years of critical, essential, life-saving work. I, on behalf of the temple, want to thank and celebrate all of the incredible staff and board members and volunteers of Baden Street who do really, really incredible work. It is our privilege to be here supporting you. And now we're going to have some fun. It is a delight for me to introduce to you someone who has a gift for musicality and spirituality, someone who can lift the spirit in celebration and in so many different ways. My friend Dan Nichols has come to us from Raleigh, North Carolina. And Dan, I want to thank you for making this a part of your visit to Rochester. We are in for a very special treat tonight as we sing along with Dan Nichols. Thank you, Dan.
Thought we'd start with some Hanukkah songs to get us going. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone shall we all live in peace. The children sing, the children dream, and their tears may fall, but we'll hear them call, and another song will rise, another song will rise, another song will rise. Clap your hands, here we go, here we go. Dum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum. Over and over. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Not by might, not by power. Shalom. Thanks to Rabbi Stein for selfless giving, running the PowerPoint. Who knew they taught rabbis to do that in rabbinical school? Another Hanukkah song. Hopefully the words are here so you can sing along, okay? Even with the masks. I'm going to be listening. Here we go. Light one candle for the Maccabee children. Give thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in. Let anger not tear us apart. Light one candle to bind us together with peace as the song in our heart. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly that we keep alive in that flame? What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? We have come this far, always believing that justice will somehow prevail. This is the burden, and this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out. Don't let the light go out. Don't let the light go out. Where I grew up, growing up at Jewish summer camp, we all learned just by virtue of being together in a room not much bigger than this one. We'd be sitting close together, and we'd have a breakfast, and then we'd have a song session. And then we'd go about our business, and then we'd have lunch, and then we'd have a song session. Then we'd go about our business, have dinner together, and we'd have a song session. And then we walked down the gravel road to an outdoor amphitheater and prayed together and sat together and sang 4 or 5 times a day. It's just what we did. And what I learned over the years, didn't know it when I was 9 years old, but the more I do it, the more I realize singing together with people of any kind of age, any kind of persuasion, builds emotional muscle tone for doing the rest of the work. And so that's why I'm here with you today, and that's why I wanted to project the words of the songs we're singing so that we can all sing together. Less of a concert and more of a sing-along. And I recognize there are people here that are like, hey, Dan, I'm not a singer. I can't carry a tune in a bucket. Don't ask me to sing. Okay, I recognize. It's not, you didn't come here for choir rehearsal, but you're all invited. And I thought we could sing some songs that maybe lots of people know. This is a Woody Guthrie song, and I'm going to sing some verses that maybe you've never heard before, but in thinking about what Baden Street does, these verses make me think about this place. As I was walking, I saw a sign there, and on that sign it said, there's no trespassing. But on the other side, it didn't say nothing. That sign was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. In the streets of the city, in the shadow of the steeple, by the relief office, I seen my people as they stood there hungry. I stood there asking, is this land still made for you and me? This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. In the face of the struggle, listen to the optimism, the hope that just pours out of every word in this last verse. Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking down freedom's highway. Nobody living, nobody live can make me turn back, can make me turn back. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Same tune if I had a bell. Here we go. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out warning, I'd ring out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. You're doing great. Same tune. If I had a song, if I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out warning, I'd sing out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Now I got a hammer. Now I got a hammer, and I got a... You sound good, keep it up. And I got a song to sing all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's the song about the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom. It's a song about the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Oh, now I'm plugged in and I'm singing out, and I love that. My favorite part so far, I'm just going to tell you true, is hearing you. You sound good. This is another good old classic folk song. Even if you never heard it before, we can build this one and make this beautiful together. Lori Wyatt wrote this song. For our hands are strong and our hearts are young, and the dreamer keeps a dreaming ages long. It's just like we're sitting by a campfire in the middle of the summer. Here, let's try it again. For our hands are strong and our hearts are young, and the dreamer keeps a dreaming ages long. Pete Seeger used to say that sometimes it's not whether a song is good or bad, but what's it good for? And I dare say these kinds of songs are good for singing with you, not singing by myself. So keep it coming. Here we go. One more time. For our hands are strong and our hearts are young, and the dreamer keeps the dreaming ages long. Keeps the dreaming along. What do we do when we needed corn? We plowed and we sowed till the early morn. What do we do when we needed corn? We plowed and we sowed till the early morn. For our hands are strong and our hearts are young, and the dreamer keeps a dreaming ages long. Keeps a dreaming along. What do we do when we needed a town? We hammered and we nailed till the sun went down. What do we do when we needed a town? We hammered and we nailed till the sun went down. For our hands are strong and hearts are young, and the dreamer keeps a dreaming ages long. Keeps a dreaming, keeps a dreaming along. What do we do when it's peace that we want? Well, it's more than any person can build or plan. We'll gather our friends from the ends of the earth to lend a hand in its hour of birth. We'll plow, we'll sow, we'll hammer, and we'll nail. We'll work all day till peace is real. For our hands are strong and hearts are young, and the dreamer keeps a dreaming ages. For our hands are strong and hearts are young, and the dreamer keeps a dreaming ages. For our hands are strong and hearts are young, and the dreamer keeps a dreaming ages long. Oh yeah. This is a song by Carrie Newcomer. I mention this because, for a couple reasons. First off, I love giving respect to the people who write these songs. I think that's important. In Jewish tradition, we call that b'shem omro, in the name of the person who gave it to you or spoke it. And I think that's a beautiful tradition. Also, Carrie Newcomer, songwriter from Bloomington, Indiana, identifies spiritually as a Quaker. And I mention that because when I learned this song, I was like, wow, this song seems very Jewish in a very important way. The song is called If Not Now, Tell Me When. And I have it on good authority. Friends of mine who know Carrie Newcomer, actually who are Jewish friends of mine, went to her and said, did you know when you were writing this song that you were writing a very Jewish song? And she said, yeah, actually I did. And so I'm always inspired in my own faith of ways that we can find ways to come together and find overlap from the way maybe your faith lifts you up and I can learn from that and also elevate and bring light to my own life and also find a way to respect people more. And so it's just so inspiring that this woman who identifies as a Quaker writes this song inspired by Jewish tradition and then finds her own way through it. And I also think I wanted to share it with you today because I think it's a kind of a new generation of social justice song. And even if you never heard it before, a couple things working for us tonight. We're projecting the lyrics. You can see them, hopefully. I see some people doing this. So you can move your chair. I'm okay. You can come sit right here in my lap if you need to. It's fine. Secondly, this tune is built. It's got a bone structure. Even if you hear it, I think it's gonna sound like a song you've known your whole life. Here we go. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. Try it. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. Although there will be struggle, we'll make the change we can. If not now, tell me when. And I may never see the promised land, and we may never see the promised land, but yet we'll make the journey. We'll walk it hand in hand. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. Try it, sing it out. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when. So we'll work until it's done. Every daughter, every son, every soul that ever longed for something better, something brighter. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. But miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. Sing it out. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when. But miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when. Around Thanksgiving last year, I don't know about you, but I wasn't going anywhere. I was sitting at home playing guitar a lot, and I was curious about this idea of Thanksgiving and what does it mean to be thankful in a way that has integrity. Just sitting by yourself alone for long hours of the day gave me a chance to, I don't know, just daydream on that for a while. And I went to a songbook that I recommend everybody here have in your home, because I know that next Saturday we're going to get together here, right? At 4 and sing these songs again. I would come to do that. My daydream would be that singing would be a part of something, group singing would be a part of something that Baden Street would do in the future. And at any time Baden Street wanted me to come and sing with folks and play guitar, I'm all for it. I would love that. And I was looking at this songbook called Rise Up Singing. It's got about 1,200 folk songs, all different types. And I was looking in the section of thanks, and I found this. And I discovered a verse that was written after this song was written that I want to share with you tonight, and I thought we could sing it all together. The lyrics that may be new for lots of us are by Samuel Ward, and or the music is, and these new lyrics are by Catherine Lee Bates and Pamela Haynes. And boy, I sure wish you'll sing this with me. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed all grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for working folk who forged the wealth we see in farm and mill, in home and school, unsung in history. America, America, may race nor sex nor creed, no more divide, but side by side, all rise united, free. May the one who causes peace to be in the high heavens cause peace to come down on us, all Israel, all the world, and let us say, Amen. Oh, say Shalom, Imroma, Uyase Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imeru, Ve'imeru, Amen. Ruth Pelham from Albany, New York wrote this song. It's one of those zipper songs. You zip out one word, you put in another, and you got a whole new song, a whole new verse, and another 5 minutes of singing. I love this song because it's just filled with optimism and hope. It's earnest, yes. And again, what's this song good for? Is singing with you. Let us sing this song for the turning of the world, that we may turn as one. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our turning. With every voice, with every song, oh, we will move this world along. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our turning. Let us sing this song for the dreaming of the world, that we may dream as one. Let us sing this song for the dreaming of the world, that we may dream as one. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our dreaming. With every voice, with every song, oh, we will move this world along. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our dreaming. Let us sing this song for the healing of the world, that we may heal as one. You got this. Let us sing this song for the healing of the world, that we may heal as one. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our healing. With every voice, with with every song. Oh, we will move this world along. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our healing. Let us sing this song for the praying of the world, that we may pray as one, heal as one, dream as one, turn as one. Let us sing this song for the praying of the world, that we may pray as one. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our praying. With every voice, with every song, oh, we will move this world along. With every voice, with every song, we will move this world along, and our lives will feel the echo of our praying, and our lives will feel the echo of our healing, and our lives will feel the echo of our dreaming, and our lives will feel the echo of our turning. Well, I feel so honored to be able to be welcomed into your home in this way, to celebrate with you an important, valuable partnership. I'm very grateful to hear Michael give us the speech today and share with us the story and the humanization of seeing the images to seeing human beings working together on this experiment we call humanity was very inspiring and makes me want to learn more about what kind of settlement houses exists in Raleigh, North Carolina, in the Triangle, and what I could do in my own town to be of some help, to another human being. That's what I take away tonight. Don't have to do it all. We don't have to do it all. And we can all do more. That's what I'm walking away with tonight. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to spend time with you holding that in my heart and getting a chance to do what I love, play guitar and sing with human beings. Thanks to Lee. Thanks to Hector, thanks to Cam, thanks to Michael for this opportunity. Thank you very, very much. This song is a song we wrote to celebrate the summer camp where I got a chance to go to camp. It's in Indiana, a Jewish summer camp for kiddos. My Rachel Stein is here. She doesn't go by Rachel Stein anymore, but you're still Rachel Stein to me. No offense, darling. But we grew up at camp together. I met Rachel when I was like 7 years old and in Indianapolis, Indiana. And here we are in Rochester in the Baden Street. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I'm not with you tonight but for a Jewish summer camp who poured everything it could into me and helped me be the person that I want to be. And this song celebrates really not camp tonight, it celebrates our community. When we want to pay attention to what we've done, acknowledge that we're doing it right now, and commit ourselves to keep doing it. This Hebrew phrase, chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek, means literally, be strong. Be strong, let us be strengthened. And that's what I feel like we're doing tonight. Hector, again, thank you so much. You could be doing so many other things tonight with your band, and you're helping me, and I'm so grateful to you. We have come from near and far to raise our voice in song. And the more we join in the refrain, the more we feel strong. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. There is a power in this place and time. It shapes the rest of our lives. For when we return each year, we find a truth we can't deny. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. As we sing, we link ourselves to those who came before. And we're one with all those yet to come. Our strength, it will endure. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Chazak, chazak. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Chazak, chazak. Be strong, be strong. Chazak, chazak, ונתחזק. Happy Hanukkah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Michael. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. I got a present.
Thanks, everyone. I'd just like to introduce Tyrese Bryan, our president of the Baden Board of Directors, to close the event for us.
Hey, thanks so much, Michael. I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. As Michael said, I have the pleasure of serving on our board of directors and serving as president with some phenomenal team members. Briefly, can all just the employees of Baden Street stand up, raise your hands? Let's show the people. Let's give them a round of applause. They're in the back there. I want to thank all of them. This week I've been reflecting a lot on Hanukkah, and we all know the miracle. We all know once the Jews had retaken the temple, they realized that they only had enough oil, as we all know, for one candle. And I've been thinking about Baden Street and how we refuel. And the message that I just want to leave everybody with tonight is help us refuel. Be part of the refueling that these folks who work with some of the most impoverished people, the folks with the most struggles in our community, help us and help them refuel. Help us to ensure that we are igniting our community. I know we see the increase in crime, the increase of poverty in Northeast Rochester, but I think about that Hanukkah miracle, and I think about we all can be a part of that refueling to reignite. We talked a lot about reconnecting. So how do we reignite? And it happens with all of us together as one. So that's my Hanukkah message that I've been reflecting on. My friend Daniel has been trying to teach me Hebrew all week, so I won't even try to repeat anything because I think the lesson failed. But happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, and may God bless all of you. Good night. Thank you so much, Dan.